Hi, this is Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. So in the Mixed Media Emporium Facebook group, our prompt for July is Nautical. And last week we looked at On the Rocks, and I'm creating this little art book. And our prompt for this week is Under the Sea. So I'm looking at last week's and I'm thinking, how can I take that forward now to Under the Sea? And that's what I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to start the same way as I did last week, and that is to put a wash on. Just want to get some colour down. So I'm using this ultramarine blue by Arteza and the titanium white by Arteza, and I'm going to mix it with some matte medium. And this will just give me a nice wash. Now you can do a wash with water. I actually like to do it with matte medium wherever possible. Now I will be putting this on double speed simply because, again, I've got a lot of footage to get through today. And as I always say, I do work quite slowly, so even when it's on double speed it doesn't look too bad. Now, the Mixed Media Emporium is a prompt-based group, so members are always welcome to share any work related to either current prompts or prompts from the past, and there's a full list of all the prompts in the files. So as I say, July we are focusing on Nautical, last week was On the Rocks, and this week is Under the Sea. So I've got my base down, and I'm now going to take the phthalo blue and also the phthalo green, both from Arteza. And I'm going to start to build up my background. I like to have a nice base coat there just to start to work on. And this paper isn't gessoed at all. It takes the paint really well, and the paper is also by Arteza. So just digging out a paintbrush, and I'm actually going to start by taking just a little bit of the titanium white. There's a little bit of blue, the original ultramarine, on there as well, but that's okay. And what I'm doing here is imagining being under the sea and looking up to the surface, and we've got that bright moon from the page before. I'm then going to start to work in an uneven fashion, the phthalo blue and the phthalo green, just blending them together as I go, and I'll do that all the way down to the bottom of the page. And you can see there that I've got it done. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm just putting a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just smoothing the white line of the moon into the sea, just blending that out just a little bit there, blending the two together a little bit. So give that a good dry. Now I am going to take some PVA glue, and it's black sand, and what I was trying to do here was to create the sea bed. And my idea was that I would put this black sand down and I would probably then paint over it, possibly with a burnt umber or something like that. I've left this in, but what I will tell you is I decide against this in the end. I actually end up rubbing it off. So I do put it on. It's very fine sand. I got this when I went to a mixed media workshop once. It was one of the products we got away. We used it on the day. I wasn't all that keen on it on the day, but of course I haven't thrown it away. So anyway, I put that on and left it for the time being. So I'm now taking this Arteza pale green. I've just used a piece of paper from last week when I did the quick sketch of the mermaid, and I just want to put some green across the lower half of this, just using that pale green. There's a bit of water on my brush, which is fine at this stage. I'm just going all the way across there. And what I'm going to do on the back, I dried that off, what I'm going to do on the back is just to use the paint that I had left on my palette, didn't matter which colours, and I just paint the black as well. So I'm now taking a fine liner. This is a Unipin, and I think it was a 0.5, and I'm going to draw in, I guess it's kind of, oh, what do you get under the sea? Is it the kind of reed type things that the fish swim through? So I'm just going to draw them, and I'm just going to take various coloured pencils, so various greens there, just from my set of Colour Soft. That's an indigo, which will just give me a little bit of a darker colour to put on, and I'm just going to colour these in places. So again, I've got my base green. Now somebody commented last week that they didn't know that you could use coloured pencils on top of paints, and I love to use pencils on top of paints. You know, it is a good, in my opinion, a good mixed media technique. And if you have a nice paint underneath, the pencils will sit well. If you've got very waxy pencils, which some are, you may then find that it's difficult to go back over the top of them. It just depends on the pencils that you're using. But you could put on some matte medium, which would act as a sealer, and you could then go on top of the matte medium. But these just allow me to do a bit of kind of shading, bringing in different colours, just to give a bit of emphasis to the different strands of the plant that are there. So I've done that side, and I'll now do the other side. And once those are done, I'm actually going to cut them out. Now the reason I did the paint on the other side was just because if any of this stuck up on the page, you wouldn't be able to see underneath. So I'm looking at that sand, and I'm just not liking it at all. So I actually decide to just rub it off with my finger. I don't get every last piece, but I got most of it off. So I've now just sketched out some fish, and I suddenly remembered I had these stickers. I got these in a mystery box from Craft Box. I didn't know what was coming in it. I think I got it a couple of months ago, maybe longer. And although I'd looked at them before, I've never used anything from it. So I was kind of thinking, could I use some of these kind of fish underwater type things? So as I say, that was from Craft Box UK, but it was a mystery box, so I don't know that you could get the exact same thing again. I'm not sure. I discovered mermaids. If only I'd known last week. That said, I'm happy with the mermaid that I did. So these were a little bit fiddly to try and lift, and all I'm trying to do at this point is to see how they would actually come up. And I'm thinking, could I use some of them in the background? I do want to make my own fish, but I'm thinking, maybe they could be there in the background. But I'll come back to those. So now looking at how my plants would fit on, thinking about my fish, I get rid of those other things, just put them out the way for the time being. And what I'll do now is I'll take my marker and I'll actually go around the fish. I just penciled them in case I made any mistakes. So I'm now just going to take a marker and go around them. This time I'm using a 0.8, but only because I couldn't find the other one that I'd been using before that. So I'm not trying to do any particular fish other than the starfish. Didn't use any reference, just kind of doing it from my head. But obviously you could get very elaborate with these if you're so inclined to do that. What I want to do now is an old chest. So I'm imagining a pirate's chest that has dropped to the bottom of the sea. So again, just sketching it out with a pencil, and I'll then go over it with my fine liner, and then I'll paint it. Did it on top of the green, that's fine. The paint that I use on top will hide the green. So going around that with the fine liner now. Just trying to imagine what a pirate's chest would look like, trying to make it a kind of curved lid, you know, one that sits up the way. But this is just about an impression of it. It's not looking to do it in minute detail. So I then take the Burnt Umber by Arteza, and I'm just going to use this to get some colour onto the pirate's chest. Once it's painted, I'll leave it to dry before going over it with the fine liner again. So I'm now going to do the fish. So I'm taking this Pebeo violet, iridescent violet blue, and I'm going to start to paint in some of the fish. So when I start this, I'm trying to keep in the lines and then realise that actually I don't need to keep in the lines. I can go over them except where I want to be adding a different colour. And that just means I can do it a little bit quicker than I would have otherwise. It does obviously cover the black lines a little bit, but again I will go over those before I cut them out. And here again, not trying to do any particular colours, just thinking about the very bright fish you sometimes get. So now I've got iridescent orange yellow. Again, it's a Pebeo paint, one of the Diner range. So doing my starfish in that colour. As I say, not using any reference, just simply some basic fish shapes and just using bright colours. This time the iridescent blue-green, again Pebeo. I had decided to draw in a little kind of shoal of fish because you do often see them in little groups huddled together, so I thought it'd be quite good to have one of those. Now I did my fish reasonably basic in terms of the colours, but you know, you could put a lot of detail and a lot of pattern on them. This tends to be the case when I'm filming. Time kind of runs away. So now taking the iridescent copper, this is a Pebeo Dyna Metallic, and I'm just going to go over the pirate's chest. Just lifting that base colour that was there a little bit. But I do actually add some more colour to it again later. And I keep going with my fish. So I'm now taking some colour pencils again, this is a dark brown, and I'm just going to start to do a little bit of shading, just so that my fish don't look totally flat. So just using a darker colour here, just to show where some of the shadows and depth might be. This time it's a dark terracotta. Not doing any detailed colouring, simply doing some lines here and there, just to emphasise that it's not flat. And I'll do that with all the fish. So electric blue here, just going along the bottom of the fish there, again just giving that sense that it's rounded, it's not flat. And a bit on the top as well. And just adding in a different colour of blue. A little bit under its, don't know if it's a gill or a fish, and then a bit on its tail, just for added emphasis. and I go round the other fish in a similar way. And I then do a bit on the pirate's chest. Also colouring in the inside this time. I don't mind that there's little bits of green showing through because this is going to be under the sea, so it could just be little bits of seaweed or whatever that's showing through. I then take my fine liner again and I go round everything, and once that's done I'm going to cut everything out. What I'll do once I've cut them out is I'll just take my black pen around the edges because I hadn't actually painted these on the back. So I now have my various collage pieces that I'm going to add to my scene, but at the moment what I want to do is just look at how they might sit, and you see I want to put that little shoal of fish kind of going through the plants, and the same on that side with that fish. So just looking at where they might all sit. And the pirate's chest sitting in there somewhere. So at this point I take out the stickers again and I start to look at them and wonder if I could put something in. You know, there's some nice kind of jellyfish, some nice shells, etc. And you know, I did spend a few minutes thinking about, do I want them, don't I want them, would they add to it, or would it almost take away from it the fact that I've got, you know, my own kind of design of fish. Anyway, I leave it to think about. I pull out these little, I don't know what they would be called, they're like kind of little gems. They're not flat, which makes them a little bit difficult to glue down. But again, I got them on that same mixed media workshop that I went to. I now have this wonderful box of beads that my lovely friend Cynthia from the States sent me. And I'm thinking there's a few things in here that might do for pieces of collage. These I think have maybe been little beads from a necklace. They're like little shells and they've got holes in them, but that's okay, I don't mind that. So I'm looking at that, I'm looking at those other little shells there. There's lots of different beads in here that I'm sure I can make use of. Little pearl things as well that I add on. These were super little, they reminded me of little fish. I don't know what they are supposed to be. Unfortunately, there was no flat side to them, and I would have had to put the glue on really, really thick to try and hold them. So I left them this time, but I do plan to use them for something. I then remember that I've got some anchor charms. Again, these came in a subscription box that I got from Craftbox a while ago. So although it's a charm, I'm thinking about just sticking that down there. And I've got a few bits and pieces. I see this other pack of starfish, and I think that I could add one of these. Now, the anchor with the hole at the top where the charm fits on, I think is fine. The starfish, I wanted to cut that piece off, but I just couldn't get it. I was trying it with the scissors, I couldn't get it off, so I've left it this time. I'm taking this pale brown and the lichen green though, because I do want to give a different colour to show that it's the bottom of the sea. So, you know, this would be the sand or whatever where the pirate's chest has landed. So just using the colour pencil again, just to give that effect. Now I'm still getting some of the sand that had stuck down earlier, and as I put the pencil down, the sand is still lifting a little bit. So what I decided to do is to actually add something a little bit darker, just to give it more effect. So again, I take this burnt umber, and I'm just going to use my finger and get a bit of colour down there. Not looking to put it on too thick. But at the same time, just giving the sense that that's the bottom of the sea at this bit. Or it could be a rock bed, I guess, but I'm envisaging it as the bottom of the sea. So again, starting to fit my pieces in place, just looking at how they would sit. Thinking again about the jellyfish. So I take this small one off. And what I noticed was that the white was going to show through now. I don't know if I'd put some glue down if that would have made it more transparent, but I decided that I just wasn't going to try it. I didn't want, although it was kind of semi-translucent, I didn't want that white showing round. So it's now time to start to glue everything down and in place once I clean myself up. And I'm just going to start with some PVA glue, and I'll put those in place. I do use a slightly heavier glue for the anchor. Now, as this was just a gluing job, I do just jump forward. So using this high-tack, very sticky glue, and I'm going to start to glue some gems, etc. into the pirate's chest. And I'll glue some little shell bits around the bottom and some of the kind of gemstones as well. And as I say, I use that same glue to put the anchor in place. But I did have to leave them sitting for a little while to dry. And once they're in place, it's the final touch. So I take this Stabilo All and one of my water pens from Arteza, and I'm just going to do a little bit of shading just underneath the fish and in some of the plants where the fish are going through. Just helps them to stand out a little bit. So if you're not in the Mixed Media Emporium and you'd like to join us, then I will leave a link to the group below. Please be aware that there are some questions to be answered, nothing difficult, just asking what your interest in the group is. So if you don't answer them, then you automatically won't get into the group. But some very straightforward questions. If you've any difficulty and don't see the questions, then please do let me know. And if you're in the group already, then I do hope you enjoy our challenge for this week, Under the Sea. And of course, Nina will also have a video, and I'll put a link to her video below. So I'm liking the way my little art book is shaping up, so 2 pages in it. And of course we'll have another nautical based prompt for next week. So that little bit of Stabilo All just adds that little bit of darkness to give the kind of effect of the shade and of the depth. Little bit inside the chest there, again, just to give that sense of depth in the lid, and then I do a little bit around some of the gems in the inside there. And there we have it. So if you like this video, I would very much appreciate you hitting the thumbs up. If there's anything you'd like to ask, then please do ask in the comments section below. I love to read your comments, and please feel free to leave a comment. And if you're not a subscriber, then I'd love for you to join me. So there we have last week's On the Rocks, and this week Under the Sea. And the gemstones are shining there. So as always, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your time in doing so. Please stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye for now.